Good evening, everybody. July 1st meeting is 7:30 p.m. of the River Edge Land Use Board. Adequate notice has been given by notice on the bulletin board at Borough Hall, by notice of the record, and those that are entitled the same. Please be advised that we're being recorded for the sake of keeping a record of this meeting. And with that, we're going to suspend the salute to the flag for obvious reasons. And I will go right to Ms. Steinle for the roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
Present.
Mr. Arkelian,
Here.
Ms. Boland,
Here.
Mr. Bartoloni. I don't see him. Mr. Merman,
Here.
Mr. Grasso,
Here.
Mr. Cray,
Here.
Mr. Caslin,
Here.
Councilman Kanigo,
Here.
Mr. Gibbons,
Here.
Mr. Esposito.
Here.
Okay, and I had a question. Is the secretary on to take the minutes?
I don't know.
I had just emailed her about 10 minutes ago to sign on the website.
Okay.
I'll text her.
Maybe that's her.
If not, we have the recording. She can go back and look at it.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I did not see minutes on the agenda. So we go directly to the reason we're here tonight.
There are minutes
There are
on the
minutes. I'm sorry, there are minutes.
Yeah, they're on it.
I didn't see the minutes, I'm sorry. I'm going to need a motion to approve the minutes. What was it, the June
17.
June 17th meeting?
Yeah, and Jim, there was an email, if you have it, dated June 25th at 8 a.m. That's where they came from.
Okay. I must have missed it. I didn't see it. It's okay.
Yep.
Any comments on the minutes at all?
No.
Motion to approve those minutes?
So made.
Mr. Merman, do I have a second?
Second, Gibbons?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay, good. Okay, so as you know, the borough has a master plan, and on that master plan, there's a piece of it that is applied to fair housing component of River Edge. And I'm going to turn it over to our planner, Tom Behrens, to go over what the borough did at the last mayor and council meeting. Tom?
Good evening. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the introduction, Mr. Chairman. So as Jim mentioned, the purpose of this evening's meeting is to conduct what's called a master plan consistency review of Ordinance 20-10, which was introduced by the Borough Council on June 8th of 2020. And the ordinance basically creates the New Bridge Road Overlay Zone, which is a component of the borough's fair share plan to address a portion of the borough's third round affordable housing obligation. And this plan component is part of the court-approved settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing Center, and is also a part of the borough's housing element and fair share plan adopted by this board. We are now in the compliance phase of the affordable housing process, whereby the borough must implement the various plan mechanisms to address its affordable housing obligations as set forth in the settlement agreement and the housing element and fair share plan, and again, which this ordinance is a part. So the municipal land use law requires specifically Section 26 referral of powers that prior to the adoption of a development regulation, revision or amendment thereto, the planning board shall make and transmit to the governing body within 35 days after referral a report including identification of any provisions in the proposed development regulation, revision or amendment, which are inconsistent with the master plan and recommendations concerning those inconsistencies and any other matters as the board deems appropriate. So I highlighted the word inconsistent. So again, the charge of the board this evening is to determine whether or not this ordinance is inconsistent with the master plan, to note any of those inconsistencies, and then finally to make a recommendation to the mayor and council, who can then, choose to adopt the ordinance at their July 13th meeting, again, adhering to the court's compliance process. So just to provide a brief overview about the ordinance itself, again, it's to create what's called an overlay zone in along New Bridge Road, which encompasses the property, the parcels known as Block 1303, lots 3, 4, and 5, which is about a 3-acre area of the borough. Again, fronting New Bridge Road and Main Street, currently developed with the BP gas station, former batting cages property, and Ethan Allen. As you all know, it's sort of in a unique area of the borough. To the north is really the Hackensack River, and I guess we'll call it marshland. To the west is the train station. To the east is the Bergen County Historical Property. And to the south is commercial development. And the site itself is within walking distance to the Newbridge Landing train station. So we do have an opportunity for transit-oriented development, which is what this ordinance allows for. The ordinance itself does not eliminate the underlying C1 zone designation. That zoning can remain, so the current property owners will get to retain their current development rights. This actually gives them an added development option to develop either multifamily or mixed-use development, again, for the purpose of creating an opportunity to create additional affordable housing in the borough. This residential component has a maximum density of 20 units per acre. So, over a 3-acre area, this could yield potentially up to 60 units with a required 20% affordable housing set aside. The ordinance also provides the bulk criteria, so the maximum height of the buildings, the setbacks, buffers, et cetera, and also provides some amount of design criteria in terms of what the building and site should look like at the end of the day. In terms of the ordinance's consistency with the master plan, I will refer to the borough's most recent master plan dated 1984. And I'm just going to run through a few of the goals and objectives of that plan, which are applicable to this ordinance. So just bear with me here while I run through these. There's an objective in the master plan that states, in appropriate locations, study and define a mixture of housing types, e.g. townhouses, condominiums, cooperatives, and planned unit developments, and determine the compatibility within the existing residential fabric of the municipality. In this case, this mixed use or multifamily development being contemplated does seem to fit in to its location and in my opinion, is within an appropriate area of the borough for such type of development, again, in proximity to the Newbridge Landing train station. The next objective is improve where necessary the aesthetic character of the existing commercial development by employing zoning controls and encouraging building maintenance. So here we have an opportunity for to sort of reinvent or redevelop sort of obsolete commercial uses, to create new buildings, improve the site, and with some new uses which may or may not include a commercial component. So it would seem to further this master plan objective. The next objective is to concentrate future commercial development, office, and retail in the existing commercial areas in order to create a community focal point and minimize conflicting land uses. While the ordinance may or may not contribute to new commercial development, I do think that it helps with the goal of creating a communal focal point in terms of putting people, again, near the train station. It may include mixed use development, and it could serve as a nice development, which is really a gateway to the community. Again, in that first corner property, once you cross over the bridge from the Milford area heading westbound. Another objective is to encourage the consolidation of underutilized blocks in the commercial areas in order to provide improved forms of commercial development. Again, this may or may not include commercial development, but there is an opportunity to consolidate at least two or three parcels here and have one unified development that contributes to the character of the borough and provide, useful mix of housing and/or commercial uses. And last but not least is the objective of requiring adequate off-street parking facilities in all new commercial developments and multifamily residential developments. Anything developed in accordance with this ordinance would have to comply with the borough's, the parking requirements established therein, which include adherence to the residential site improvement standards for the residential component. So it is my opinion that this ordinance does, or is not only not inconsistent, but is substantially consistent with a number of the borough's master plan goals and objectives. As I mentioned earlier, again, this ordinance is a component of the court-approved settlement agreement. It is a part of the housing element and fair share plan adopted by this board, which is an element of the master plan. So at this point, the board can discuss the ordinance, make a determination as to whether or not the ordinance is inconsistent with the master plan, and if so, can make any recommendations to the council moving forward.
Okay. It's a lot to take in for everybody. I wonder if, I guess, well, I'm going to call by name. And as I call your name, if you have any comments, questions, and so forth. And I'm going to start with Mayor Papaleo. Mayor? Mayor?
I'm sorry about that. I was pushing my space bar to unmute and it wasn't happening.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Jim, I'm good. I'm good. I have no questions. I'm satisfied.
Okay. Ms. Boland?
I have no comment either.
Mr. Grasso?
I have no comment. Everything looks good in it.
Mr. Caslin?
All good here.
Alphonse is not on with us, correct? Councilman,
Correct.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Behrens. That was terrific. Great job. No questions.
excellent. Mr. Cray?
Just one question. The overlay zone has the potential for 60 units. And you said 20% of those would have to be set aside, so potential for 12. Is that correct?
Correct. And that was part of the negotiations with Fair Share Housing Center that they actually wanted a higher density, and we were able to compromise at 20 units per acre, which is fitting with the type of development that's contemplated there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, I'm good.
But yes, to answer your question.
Ryan?
Just one point for clarification. So that could be any type of housing, apartment, condo, single family, multifamily.
Well, no, it would have to be in the context of a multifamily or apartment type development. The units themselves could be for sale or rental. In this area, you're the real estate. So I won't tell you what they would be, but
Yeah, that just, but
they
we
would
don't have any control over it being apartments or condos from a borough standpoint.
Correct. But they could not be townhouses. They could not be single family houses.
Okay. Thank you. I'm good.
Thanks, Ryan. How about Mr. Esposito?
Good to me. I'm good with it.
All right, then I guess we're good. No, I skipped over Mr. Merman to the end. Go ahead, Dick.
And why do you think I would not have a comment?
No, I knew that's why I skipped to the end.
I know. Okay. I reviewed this document, which is basically a resolution of adoption for the AH1 overlay zone. And Tom mentioned the geographical location being the block and the lots. I do not see that appearing anywhere within this written resolution, and I believe it should be inserted. because it's
So-
very,
So Ms. Finley, you're gonna, as we spoke earlier, you're gonna write that into the adoption, correct?
Yes, I'm going to put it in paragraph 2.
I was just,
Lock and lot.
the area to be. Mhm.
all right. The other thing I had, and I know the history somewhat. I heard Tom's explanation, but if a group of objectors came forward and said that you're in essence committing a spot zoning, Tom, explain to us, other than the affordable housing, what your defense would be.
Well, as I sort of touched on, I think this area in particular is a very unique location within the borough. Again, in that it's sort of bisected by the rail line. It is adjacent to the Hackensack River to the north, and it's environmental environs, let's say, has the historical property across the street, and it, again, is close to the train station. It's about 3 total acres, and when you consider the entire site in its totality, it really creates a unique opportunity, which again would lend itself to transit-oriented development, given that it's about, let's say, 2 blocks from the train station. So I think in a lot of ways it makes sense and can stand on its own as a unique development site.
Okay, I agree with you. Can we make sure that that statement appears within the minutes recorded? So if we do have any kind of anybody objecting, we do have a written format already?
I will make sure our clerk, who's on board with us right now, is that correct, Tom? Ed, Walter?
Lisa is on board. She's just muted, but she's hearing everything, so
Okay.
she'll do the minutes.
Okay.
So that'll be included in the minutes.
Okay. I have one general comment, and I am just putting it forward. I'm sure the mayor and the council people might be aware of it, but I'm not so certain that the other board members are. This particular parcel or overlay area right now is not served by a municipal sanitary sewer, which now becomes an off-site development for this parcel development for the 60 dwelling units or whatever they wind up coming up with. I want the mayor and all to be aware of that, so that if they get to a position where they're negotiating with a potential developer, that developer pays for all the off-site municipal improvements that are required to dispose of the sanitary from this development. It's my belief that right now that the River Edge taxpayers should not have to provide that capital expenditure to enhance a private developer. So that's basically just a comment
Mm-hmm.
for
I think
future
that's
reference.
a comment, Mr. Merman. Tom, would you make note of that in a memo to the council in that regard? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Merman.
All right.
Thanks.
I believe Mr. Costa might be aware of it from a previous meetings that we had as a site plan review a number of years ago.
Yeah, but it wasn't too long ago. It was maybe a year and a half ago, we discussed this, where the BP station doesn't have a bathroom because they don't. And this was in discussion with the Historic Commission, Historic Society application. That's where that came up.
Okay. So as long as it's noted, because I don't want to see the taxpayers somewhat get snookered for that sewer. And I believe that's the sum total of my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so with the addition of Ms. Finley's in paragraph 2, giving the locations of the overlay. That should satisfy what we're going to do next. That is, let's get first things out of the way. So, Ms. Finley, so I'm asking for a motion that it is consistent, or
Well, first, I would just want to open things up to the public, just in
Yep.
case there's someone listening.
right? All right. So let's can I get a motion open to the public?
So moved.
Anybody? Okay.
Second.
Yep. Second.
Yes.
I believe that's Mr. Berman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry. So we're open to the public. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
We have no attendees.
No attendees. Okay. Go ahead. We close to the public.
So made.
Second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So back to Ms. Finley. So how do you want this worded? Because I know it's a little convoluted at the end here.
So this can be a motion to approve the resolution.
No, we're not there yet. We still have to approve the fact that it's consistent with the master plan.
And the wording, if I may, is actually to determine that it's not inconsistent. I know that
Inconsistent.
sounds convoluted, but it's
That's
determine
exactly
the
what
ordinance-
I want to make sure it's correct. So
Yeah.
Okay,
for a motion from somebody to state that this is not inconsistent with the master plan. Can I get a motion on that?
I make a motion that the is not inconsistent with the master plan.
And do I have a second?
As amended.
As amended, correct.
As amended.
Do I
Okay,
have a second?
I'll second it. Dick Merman will second.
Ms. Finley, can I have a roll call, please?
okay. I'm sorry, who was the motion and second?
Herman was the second, and Mr. Grasso was the motion.
Okay, okay, so Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Bartoloni is absent, Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Councilman Kanigo,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
and Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, so you should have been sent a few days ago a copy of the resolution of what we just approved. And the reason that we've expedited this is because the borough's under a time frame here. So I asked Ms. Finley to execute a document, and if we had to make any changes, we would make them. We would vote on those changes to the resolution, and then we would, both myself and the secretary would sign it once that change is made, which I'm expecting could be done tomorrow because it's 2 sentences. So with the correction made, paragraph 2, both the noting both the addresses. Do I have any comment on the rest of this resolution?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I think when I made the motion, possibly for technical reasons, it has to be done again because I didn't mention the word resolution in my.
No, you weren't approving the resolution. You were just approving exactly what you said.
Oh,
That's fine.
okay.
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 We're on the resolution now, so you can get to the resolution when I call. I just want to make sure there's no other questions on the resolution.
Okay.
Okay, so again, I'm going to open to the public. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
A
Gibbons?
second open to the public?
Second,
Right. Who was the second?
Mike Crane.
Mike, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Being that we don't have anybody signed on from the public, I'm going to ask for a motion to close to the public.
So moved. Gibbons?
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstained? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve the resolution as corrected, or as corrected.
Yeah, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Wanted to ask earlier. The resolution and the overlay zone as it's created does not require residential development there, it allows it. If someone were to opt to just do pure commercial development there, that's not prohibited. Is that correct?
Correct. It creates the opportunity to develop affordable housing as an option, as an extra option, yes.
Okay. Odds are they'll like that option better, but yeah, understood. Okay. I'm good.
It's an interesting question. We'll get to that right after this. We move this. Can I get a motion on the resolution? Can I get a motion to approve it?
All right, I'll make the motion that the land use board approve the overlay zone AH1 as written and amended to show the block 1303 lots 3, 4, and 5. Do I need to add anything else?
No, I think you're good, but because we have the document. Do I have a second?
Second.
Sounded like Ms. Boland was first.
Ladies first.
Okay. And can I get a roll call, please, Ms. Stanley?
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Bartoloni is absent. Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Councilman Kaniga.
Do I vote on this one because it comes before the council or no?
Yes, you may vote on the memorialization, yeah.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Gibbons
Yes.
and Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, everybody. Just a couple housekeeping things real quick. We have coming up, I believe, in August, probably the first meeting in August, we have one of these properties coming in for a food license and that'll require a site plan review for a golf center. And the reason they have to come in for a food license is because they're going to put a food area in there. So they'll be coming before us in August. Sonny G's, formerly Ragova, over on Johnson Avenue. He's got two separate applications. The borough granted him the license to be able to put the lift in, and now he needs a variance for the front yard setback. So he'll be coming for that. And he also expressed interest in coming before the board for eating. And he was advised by, I advised our attorney to pass along what some of the pitfalls that he may have to maneuver to get that approved. Because everybody remembers, a couple of years ago, we gave Ragova, at the time, a 1-year waiver for their parking. And we told them they need to come back to make it if there were no complaints. As far as I know, there were no complaints, but they never came back. So that will be an issue that he'll have to address when he comes back in. And I also instructed Ms. Stinley to let the applicant know that if he plans on doing what he did last time with having the company that could do his valet service come in and explain that they have permission from 2 buildings in Hackensack, that they would have to know that, if they changed hands, he would have to come back. And also, as the chairman, I would require they come that they go and get a letter from the city of Hackensack stating that it's okay to use those two buildings for parking that wasn't originally approved. And I think that's only fair to our neighbors in Hackensack, that we let them know and get their approval on it before we allow a business in our town using parking in another town. And I'm hoping everybody's in agreement with me on that.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question on that.
Sure.
If we're approving this, so to speak, do we open up ourselves to any liability? And if so, should they be required to add us as additional insureds on an insurance policy?
So I'll go to Ms. Finley on that in a second, but from past experience, as long as they have a lease from the building owner, that's going to be allowed. And so long as they have permission from the city of Hackensack, where those two buildings are located, to be able to use that for valet parking, I think that would probably absolve us. Ms. Finley, do you agree?
I would have to look into that a little bit more, but are you specifically talking about the parking situation or the encroachment?
They're gonna have runners running with the cars from River Edge to Hackensack, back to River Edge.
Yeah.
They're creating a new traffic pattern that they're going to be following there.
Okay.
So I'm a little concerned that if we say, yeah, okay, that somebody gets hurt and turns around and sues us. That's why maybe the easiest way is additional insured kind of coverage.
Okay, I'll definitely look into that before that application comes before the board.
Thank you.
Good point, Councilman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question or a comment on that, on the parking issue. Right now, the way you're explaining it, it just continues on forever. Can we set some kind of a...
Let's see what the application looks like. I'm just giving everybody a heads up of what's coming forward. Until we actually have the application in front of us, I don't think it's prudent for us to start getting into the specifics. This is just letting everybody know what's coming up. Then I believe there's 2 food licenses that are in the works. One is the new place over in the main strip mall here that changed hands, and the other one, of course, we talked about last meeting, is Feathers. They changed hands, so they'll be coming in for a food license as well.
Jim?
Yep.
Don't they have to be coming to us before they start actually
temporary
working? Or they got a temporary, how's that happening? Because I noticed they're actually functioning.
Yeah, we because of the situation at hand, I believe that there's been a little lenience right now. I don't think that lenience is going to travel too much further. It's because of the situation. We understand it. All of our business having hardships, so they were existing businesses. So we gave a little latitude, Rye, and then with that latitude, Tom has been in touch with them. They know what they need to do. We've given them a time frame, and if they don't do it, then it'll have to go back to the building department.
Okay. In the future, can I request that those things be sent to us, that we know someone has a temporary reprieve, or is that possible?
I can remind the board, we only hear applications. We're not in the enforcement from the borough. The enforcement from the borough is Tom, our planner, and our subcode official. They're the ones that go out and find if there's violations. We're not in charge of that. The only thing we can do, an application comes before us, we can approve it or deny it. But we can't go out in the field and start enforcing borough orders. That's not our job.
No, just so we know that something was in the works, because I brought it up to you, I noticed that the one restaurant had changed name and hands, and, no one had come before us. So at least if we knew that something was allowed, they went to the council, so we at least be in the loop. Not saying we enforce anything, but.
Nobody really knew about that until it was brought to our attention. And then it was brought to Tom's attention, and Tom has addressed it. I think he's addressed it appropriately.
Okay.
sometimes you have to work with our business owners. And again, in these difficult times, you don't want to shut somebody down and have a subcode official go there and shut them down because they failed to do what they were supposed to do. They were notified, they have a time frame, Tom's on top of it. If there is a delay from one of the applicants, then I think the subcode official will have to take the action that he deems appropriate. That, again, not in the purview of our board.
Right.
Our board is only to approve or disapprove applicants once they come in.
No, I get it. And I know the borough's on it. Just
Yep.
a thought.
No, and
Yep.
and if I could just interject, sorry, great questions. We've been in touch with both Feathers and the new restaurant almost on a weekly basis. They have, as far as I know, gotten their health department approvals, and I believe they have or are in the process of getting their fire inspections too. So at least from a safety perspective, they're up to snuff. And as the chairman mentioned, they're really just a change in ownership from the same type of business. And the reason this happened was, one, because of the ongoing COVID situation, and two, because there was some, I guess, miscommunication, we'll call it. And so we are working to get them to the board and get things cleared up as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
And I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate the mayor and council on doing an excellent job with our business owners, getting them the proper permit to be able to do their outdoor dining so they can, one, privilege in a wonderful way, and two, be able to survive this thing until hopefully we get back to normal someday. Councilman Caningo, Mayor, Councilman Kaufman, please pass along the board and my personal thank you for looking out for the businesses in our town. That was a great thing. I know you got it done very quickly, and I know the business owners really appreciated it.
Thank you, Jim. We will pass it on to the rest of the council, and we're glad to work with our businesses and keep them alive.
I also don't want to be remiss in thanking Councilman Michelle Kaufman again for taking control of us here,
Sure.
doing a wonderful job getting the invites out. We'd be lost without you. What can I tell you? So thank you, Councilman. And I think that's it for tonight. Does anybody else have anything real quick? And if not, I would entertain a motion to close.
So moved. Gibbons.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in
Gary, you have
favor?
to say your name.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a
Any
good evening,
abstain?
everybody.
I
Happy
got my
4th of July, everyone.
4th of July. Be safe.
Thank you.
Happy
Happy
4th of
4th.
July, yes.
Happy 4th.
happy 4th, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Night.
Seven.